This is an instructional video about equivalent fractions, and our essential question for today is when do I multiply or divide to make equivalent fractions, which is an identifying question. So our first question is, what does equivalent mean? It means it stands for the same value or amount. So something, oops, let me get that focused for you. Good. So what happens is that sometimes students think equivalent fractions means they have to be the exact same, but that's not the truth, meaning they have to look exactly the same. That's what I mean by that. But I can say two things are equivalent if they stand for that same value or just the same amount. However, they might look different. And this is a key thing we got to think about, and that's a huge piece about the equal sign, is knowing that I'm telling you that what's on one side is the same exact thing as what's on the other side, even though it might look a little bit different. So, what does it look like? To make equivalent fractions. Essentially what you do is you either multiply or divide. So for example, I might be given this. Now, I'm declaring that these are equivalent fractions. And if you went and made a picture, if I took something and I cut it into fourths, I need to figure out how much I'm going to shade in. But I'm going to take a look. If I had the same shape and I cut it into 16 equal pieces and I had 12 of them shaded in, the exact same amount would be shaded in. Now, what I tend to do is I look at, okay, how do I get from my whole fraction to my partially filled fraction? So I see 16. I'm thinking in my head, how do I get from 16 to 4? And it has to be multiplying or dividing. Well, I know I'm dividing by 4. So then I have to do the same in the numerator because remember it stands for the same when it's equivalent. So 12 divided by 4, 3. So 3/4 is an equivalent fraction to 12/16. Let's try another one. Say I had 15/30, and I wanted to figure out how many 60ths that would be. I look for my whole fraction, my completed fraction. And what I'm seeing is I know that 15/30 is equal to something over 60. If I drew the pictures, I would be completely convinced on it. So now I got to see, all right, so I have my wholly completely filled fraction to my partially completed fraction. So how do I get from 30 to 60? That means I multiply by 2. So I have to do the same in the top. So 15 times 2, and my answer is 30. So that's what it looks like to make equivalent fractions. And that's essentially all that we have to do is look for what is my number relationship, and it has to be multiplying or dividing. It cannot be adding or subtracting.